there shortly.
Yep.
Do this. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 127 of the Salvaggio and Cratty Sports Podcast. Here for you on yet another Wednesday night, January 25th, 7:15 p.m. First week with no studs and duds for a long time, so it's gonna feel a little different, but still plenty of football. As the season progresses along here, as we lose it slowly, sadly, but we got plenty to talk about today still. And before I segue us into any of that, Ryan, how are we feeling tonight on this Wednesday night?
I'm feeling good. It's starting to snow near my house, so hopefully power, knock on wood, stays good. Don't lose anything and no technical difficulties. That's why I said knock on wood. But yeah, doing good. Like you said, it's going to be a little different with no studs and duds for the first time in quite some time, but thought we'd maybe switch it up, some Celtics to talk about, some of the game recaps, because it's been an interesting week for the Celtics. The Red Sox, they've made headlines the last couple of weeks, as we'll see with my moment of the week, and then a couple moves they made, and then the Bruins are still rolling, of course, and some football news, some good stuff with the Patriots, and of course, the divisional round wrap-up and conference finals preview.
Yeah. Absolutely. I figured since your moment of the week segues us into Red Sox, we'll get my quick ones out of the way, then start with Red Sox, then go into football maybe.
Okay, it sounds good to me.
Just to kind of, keep the Red Sox all in one place. For me, it was the Bruce Boudreau situation. Anybody who has been following the NHL the past week knows what's going on with Bruce Boudreau, how really strangely and poorly the Canucks have handled the situation. I'm not one of those people out there that's absolutely worked up about this, but I do think it's kind of crappy how this has been handled for a guy that's been around for so long, played in the league before his coaching days. I just think a disservice has been done to him, and he kind of got the shit end of the stick and handled it really well through all the uncertainty and stuff that he had to deal with for a little while there. It was just really a shame, and it sucks to see because Bruce Boudreau's a funny guy, he's a likable guy, and the Canucks really gave him a prick job here, and wasn't a huge fan of it along with a lot of other people. So I had to mention that here. Also the Kyle Brand question to Josh Allen on some podcast or something was talking about, he asked Allen about the whole theory that some people think DeMar Hamlin is dead or a body double.
I saw that. Yeah.
Come on, dude.
I saw that on TikTok first, and it was just a random, it wasn't that interview, it was a question. It was just some random guy was like, there's a theory going around that DeMar Hamlin isn't alive. And I'm like, and I thought he was joking at first, and then it went into the interview, and I'm like, why you seriously even have to ask that? It's
just such a
bit of a far-fetched. Yeah, that's a better word for it.
Yeah, but I mean, I just don't understand why that needed to be asked. It's it's just very clearly not true, and it's just drummed up by idiots who are too bored with their lives on the internet. I just thought that was crazy that somebody like Kyle Brandt would ask something like that. It was just really dumb.
Kudos to Josh Allen for keeping it cool with the answer too, because I feel like he very easily could have been like, what the fuck is your problem? Why would you even ask a question like that? But
sounds like a dork who sits on Reddit all day and drums these things up, and he's supposed to be a media professional. It's pretty brutal. But your moment of the week segues us into some brief Red Sox talk before we get into football and all that other stuff. As we do have some Red Sox news in the off season.
Yeah, just again, it's more dumpster diving. We'll get into that in a second. But yeah, last week was Red Sox win a weekend over the course of the weekend. Surprisingly, a lot of the front office was in attendance, including John Henry. And videos on Twitter, I saw Nesson finally aired the condensed version of it, which they held at a lot of stuff. Red Sox ownership rightfully so got blasted, which I think I saw it caught a lot of people by surprise, because a lot of people were like, oh, this is usually the diehard fans. You don't tend to see a lot of this booing and heckling and stuff like that. At this, people kind of come in, ask their questions, and then just, have a laugh and everything, because it's supposed to be a fun weekend. And I don't know why a lot of people were surprised by that. I absolutely, if I got a ticket, I'm sure you too would have went there and been part of the booing and the heckling, because it was a chance for fans to, vent their frustrations. And they absolutely did. Some of the funnier points from it. This was from Boston Sports Gordo on Twitter. He did a good job summarizing some of the main points that the Nest and Telecast cut out. There was a comment that John Henry that's caught some steam from him saying that, it's expensive to have baseball players. I don't know what the question was, but I'm sure it was asked about, the luxury tax stuff and not signing guys.
Coming from the guy who has millions of dollars.
Yeah, coming from the guy that I just saw, I think it was Fox's
sports franchises.
Yeah, but Fox's, I think they're like baseball account, or I can't remember what the account was exactly, but put out there like the top 10 baseball franchises from like a revenue standpoint. And the Red Sox, I think, were 3 on it. So yeah, they don't have any money, I guess. John Henry and that also said that, they can't spend. A lot of people were on him for the high ticket prices this season, rightfully so, because the product is not going to be great. So the ticket prices maybe shouldn't justify, being that high. But John Henry went out and said that, the Red Sox can't spend without having high ticket prices. I don't know if I believe that. And a lot of fans didn't either, because that's where a lot of the boos came from as well. John Henry also said that he's at Fenway Park every night. I think that's complete BS. I feel like you probably share the same thought as I do on that. And then Sam Kennedy had a funny one. Maybe you know this better than I do, obviously following the Bruins closer than I do, and being at the games. But Sam Kennedy justified the Red Sox the Red Sox ticket prices as a whole by saying it's less expensive than the Garden ticket prices currently. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if you have any thoughts or any insight that you can give.
Well, Sam, here's the thing. The Bruins have won 38 of 47 games.
So to justify that those ticket prices might be high. The Celtics also have won pretty much of most of their games too.
The Red Sox would be lucky to win double 38 games this year with how their roster looks.
I think 76 is their win total, according to Vegas. I heard the other day.
That's the number right there. 38 times 2, 76. Yep. Bing, bang, boom.
There you go.
This is just clearly to me a situation where John Henry was forced to come to this, so he did. Otherwise, he would have just not shown up.
Yep.
And him trying to brush things off because he has money and he's like, "Oh, I'm bigger than this. I don't have to, I don't have to, give the people what they want with all these answers. I'm just gonna, do what makes me feel the best."
The whole thing was ridiculous. So I don't know. I don't know if you saw.
Jared Carrabis made it like tense.
Absolutely good for him too. I didn't know he was going to be there. Listening to 98.5 and Zolak and Bertrand, because Tyler Milliken's on that show. He said that was kind of a last minute thing. Not a lot of people knew Carrabis was going to be there and be one of the moderators along with Tom Karen for the town hall type of thing. I thought he did a great job, because some of the clips I saw, the Xander Bogaerts question about hindsight, now knowing about Trevor Story's injury, he flat out asked, "Do you guys regret not bringing Bogaerts in?" I didn't see the answer to it. I just saw the person that was in attendance only had the question. He had, I can't remember what the question talking about, if the Red Sox are Fenway Sports Group's top priority at the moment, like you mentioned, because they're in so many different other things. And John Henry had the haha, fake kind of laugh, and then the look at the watch, like you said, I don't have to be here. When can I get out of here? The best moment of the thing for me, though, I don't know if you saw this video. I forgot to send it to you the other day, but Heimblum was asked about the process, or just, over the years, what he's done to kind of change things. And he brought up the talk of all the young talents that he took over, and the decision to sign and who not to sign. It was kind of revolving around the Devers extension, and the Mookie one too. And this idiot who, I can't remember if he went to Yale or whatever, but you think he'd be a smart guy. He's not. The choice of wording in this answer, where he basically goes on this tangent about, baseball teams have to place bets, and, you want to place, your bet on the right guy and bet on this and bets on that. I went back and watched the video yesterday. Obviously, he's talking about Mookie Betts and making that trade and trying to justify that again, and then bringing it back to the Devers extension. This dumb motherfucker goes out and says the word either bet or bets, 10 effing times before he finally gets to Mookie. That's where a lot of the boos were coming from. Again, the whole thing to me just screams that this team is just so tone deaf and just doesn't know how to just function on a normal basis. Go in there, try to, justify some things. Don't just completely be stupid like this and think fans aren't going to get pissed. When it did halfway through it seemed like he himself knew that I'm just going to try to piss as many people off as I can here by completely bringing up, bets this and bets that, but not actually say Mookie until the very end. The whole thing was just idiotic. And again, like I said, it's just the whole aura around this team of just not being able to read the room, it seems like, in any sense, and just not really having any idea what's going on half the time.
Yeah, this team is just run by drones.
Yep. That's what he's a robot. We've said that before. I've coined the phrase that he's a used car salesman. They all are. Sam Kennedy too. Just the whole thing. Some of the people I saw on Twitter, the reactions to fans booing, and people were like, "Oh, this is what a spoiled fan base looks like. Like, how dare these people come in here and whine about where this team is?" Like, I don't know how you can be on that side. It's that must just be like John Henry and Chaim Bloom burner accounts, because yeah, this team's been successful over the years, but I've had this argument before with people where it's like, you don't be successful at the top of the top and then just completely plummet down like this team has year after year. I think the fans have a right to go in there and boo them. The people that were when Chaim Bloom was talking about where this team was when I took over, and somebody yelled Dave Dombrowski and another person yelled last place. I thought that was hilarious. So they took their licks. I guess kudos to them for showing up and doing that. But then again, exactly, it's part of the job. But just some of the answers they gave were just the typical, like I said, used car salesman, snake oil salesman type of crap that no one's going to believe, and you're getting everything you deserve right now.
Absolutely, I agree, and yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly. They deserve it, and it's nice to see them face the music a little bit, because any besides Bloom, any opportunity they get, I feel like Kennedy is okay with this too. Like, they'll just dodge it. So
absolutely,
in any way possible. But in positive news, if you feel positively about the player, the Red Sox acquired Alberto Mondesi and a player to be named later from the Royals in exchange for Josh Taylor on Tuesday. Played in 15 games last year, hit 140 and had 3 RBIs. I'm going to defer to you because I really know nothing about the player besides the fact that he plays shortstop and he did for the Royals. I really don't know anything about him.
It's a weird trade, and I think you sum it up perfectly. It all kind of depends on how you feel about the player and the fact that the Red Sox did not have a legitimate shortstop as this guy's number one position on the roster, the 40-man roster. This is a move they not had to make, getting this player, but they had to, go out and get a shortstop. Obviously, there was talks. You and I discussed it on this very show. Would they go out and, re-up Iglesias for the third time? Would they make a move for maybe a Joey Wendell type of player? They take a chance on Alberto Mondesi, like you said, played 15 games last year because he tore his ACL. So that's a guy you want to throw all your money into and throw all your eggs into that basket. The trading away Josh Taylor, he was kind of the odd man out in the bullpen. They had made some other moves to get some guys in here. Taylor struggled all of last season to recover from a back injury, never got back. And even, the year prior, his numbers had been down, velocity, stuff like that. So a guy kind of on the way out, you get something for him, I guess is good. Mondesi's a shot in the dark type of guy. Or like we like to talk about with this team, a dumpster dive and hope this guy pans out. Because the Red Sox, they're probably looking at this kid going, okay, well, looking up his baseball reference page, back in, where is it? 2019, which was 4 years ago now. He had 9 homers, drove in 62, hit 263, led the league in triples. 2020, he led the league in stolen bases with 24.
That led the league?
That was the COVID season. Yeah.
I was going to say,
the year prior had 43 stolen bases, looking at some stuff on Twitter, Red Sox stats, had kind of the good breakdown of Mondesi saying he tore his ACL last April. When healthy, is a top tier speed and defense at short. He's generally 10% worse than the league average as a hitter. His speed making up for ugly batting metrics. Again, former top prospect who's only played in 100 plus games once in his major league career. 102 back in 2019. I think he's played 50 games 15 games last year, 35 games in 2021. He's another dumpster dive. Hope you can get this guy to pan out. If he doesn't, it's not that big of a problem. I saw Chaim Bloom say that he might not even be ready for the start of the season. So that's good. You make a trade for a guy that might not be ready to go. And again, ACL surgery is not an easy thing to come back from, I'd have to imagine. So who knows when you're going to see him. It's again, like I can't say it enough. It's not like a broken record. Dumpster dive type of move where you hope you get something out of the guy. And if not, you kind of just you have him as a depth piece. I'm not upset by it. I'm not overly thrilled by it. Again, like you're giving up Josh Taylor, who didn't really have a spot on this roster to begin with. So you get something from him in the end. And, if Mondesi pans out, I guess you got something there. But it seems like Kike's still going to play short. So
the fact that you didn't just get a player to be named later for Josh Taylor is something. So it just gives you depth behind Kike. I don't see this guy starting over Kike unless he has a great spring leading up to the regular season. But yeah, I mean, it's okay. You don't really give up a lot for him. But the surprise that came, with roster shuffling after the Duvall, signing being made official and, Mondesi now, that Matt Barnes was DFA'd. And I'm not like seeing the name DFA'd is surprising. Seeing it with the production makes it not surprising. Just watching him last year, and it just further reinforces the fact that Ryan Brazier has dirt on the organization and maybe Caleb Ort as well.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's the thing that I think just should frustrate. It should frustrate people. It absolutely is. It doesn't make a lot of sense from, again, a guy that you know what he is standpoint. Like, again, the Red Sox it seems like they have these younger guys and guys that are more controllable. Because Chris Cotillo had the great explanation. Because, again, a lot of people were confused by this. Milliken had it on Twitter when it happened. He said Barnes came back from the final 2 months of the season and posted a 1.59 ERA. Still the strikeouts were down. How do you put together a solid end of the month? Boston Sports Gordo again had Matt Barnes posted a 2.92 ERA in 12 and a third in August innings, and then a 0 ERA in 10 and a third in September, October innings, designating him for assignment. You definitely don't want that. But DFAing him doesn't save any money or give the team any additional room under the luxury tax. What gives? Chris Cotillo had Red Sox will pay Matt Barnes $7.5 million in 2023, even though they are DFAing him, waiting for the Bloom explanation. Boston Strong had that explanation on Twitter. According to Time Bloom, he says that Ryan Brazier has better projections than Matt Barnes, and that's why he's on the roster,
dude. Which
I can't believe that. I'm sure Chaim Bloom is looking more into the projections than just like the two's baseball reference page. But that's what I went and did.
Using analytics to back it up and
exactly.
What we really know.
The nerd stats, but just looking at baseball references page, Matt Barnes is projected a 3.93 ERA in 50 innings this upcoming season. Ryan Brazier is projected a 4.5 ERA in 58 innings. So last time I checked, you'd rather have the guy with a 3.96 ERA than a 4.5 ERA. But what do I know? You and I aren't GMs of baseball teams. The whole thing doesn't make any sense. Matt Barnes, if you were able, and maybe they trade him, obviously you have that option when DFAing a guy. But the fact that you're getting rid of him and you're still paying that salary, why not just keep him? Again, the numbers weren't great last year until the end of the season. He figured some things out. But I found Chris Cotillo's the tweet I was going to get to, where he kind of gave the real explanation on what the Red Sox probably are most likely doing with this. He said, initial sense is the Red Sox are trying to prioritize flexibility when it comes to their bullpen. And on that token, trying to have as many guys with options as possible. Again, the way teams like the Rays and Athletics and Diamondbacks all operate, where we'll just bring up a bunch of guys from AAA. They're interchangeable. We'll just kind of burn through those options and not have to pay those guys anything, because that's how we operate with a $60 to $80 million payroll instead of what the Red Sox have. Like you said, there's other guys on this roster you could have DFA'd. Brazier is, of course, the one that comes to everybody's mind, a 5.78 ERA last year. I don't know what people see in Cutter Crawford. I feel like I'm the one person on the planet.
Young.
That's what I mean. That's it. Because I don't know what, from a baseball standpoint and skill standpoint, people seeing him. 5.47 ERA last year. Yeah, he had a run in the middle of the season where he had a couple of scoreless outings. Still didn't look all that great in my opinion. I'll give Franklin Herman the benefit of the doubt. You have to get something from that Benintendi trade. He was a guy that had some upside last year, even though he struggled in the major leagues. Wyatt Mills, a guy we touched on when they brought him in, was just kind of, depth move. But he's still here. And then Caleb Ort, same thing, as you said. Maybe he has dirt in the organization too, because he wasn't all that impressive when he came up, a 6.35 ERA last year. It doesn't make any sense. Chaim Bloom went on, I think it was High Heat today. I saw this tweet right before we came on here. I'm probably not going to be able to pull it up now. But was asked about all the roster moves, and I think was asked about, the DFAing of Barnes. And he basically said something along the lines, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, trying to find this tweet, but it was like one of those guys, I think basically a culture change is what they were looking for. Now, obviously, there were a lot of guys in the organization last year that were kind of testy towards the trade deadline. Vasquez was outspoken about, the moves they were making, Bogart, stuff like that. I was listening to Matt Zolak and Bertrand today, and Mike McCarthy was on there talking about maybe Matt Barnes was one of those guys that was a little too outspoken about Chaim Bloom last year and the moves that were made. And this was just another guy that kind of was purged off of this roster, like the Eovaldes and, like I said, the Vasquezes. So maybe, a little inside thing to think about there, or a little bit of a not controversy. What's the word I'm thinking of?
A rift.
No, maybe a riff, but I can't even figure out how I'm trying to describe
which one is the right word.
Yeah, but conspiracy theory. That's what I was trying to say. I knew the word began with a C. Maybe a little conspiracy theory for people that are maybe a little too bored, but maybe there's something into that, because like I said, if you read into it, all the guys that kind of had some outspoken comments last year about what direction the team was going in, a lot of them are no longer here. Like I said, the Vasquez's, the Evaldi's, Bogarts, now Barnes. I'm hoping, maybe they get something for him in trade. Because again, if you're just cutting this guy and still eating the money, like then the move looks even more dumb than it already is. And again, like you lose Matt Barnes. Is it the end of the world? No, because he wasn't, the numbers were trending down. But again, it's a move that just doesn't make a ton of sense from a baseball standpoint, but from operate like a minor league baseball team and a poverty franchise, it makes all the sense in the world. So like you said, the robots that run the Red Sox.
Yep, exactly. More stupid shit with this stupid team.
Mm-hmm.
But one team we know, at least for the meantime, isn't stupid are the Patriots, because they made the right call at offensive coordinator, bringing Bill O'Brien back this week.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Which we're all hoping and expecting for, I think. I can
absolutely. I mean,
for Patriots fans listening.
Yeah, I mean, we ran through the names, the guys that were getting interviewed last week, and those kind of seemed like formalities. Like, I feel like once Bill O'Brien's name was thrown in there, you kind of knew the writing was on the wall. Obviously, he'd been here before from 2007, 2011. Spent a little bit of time with Mac Jones. I thought he was with him during Mac Jones's playing time there, but looking into it a little more, it was when Mac Jones was on his way out to go to the combine. That was when Bill O'Brien came into the Alabama program, and Mac kind of helped him learn the playbook before he left. So there was a familiarity there, which is good. This was from Mark Daniels saying, according to one source close to Mac Jones, the Patriots quarterback is very excited about Bill O'Brien coming to New England. Another source close to the Patriots quarterback told Mass Live that Jones is, quote, looking forward to working with Coach O'Brien. So that's good.
Looking forward to working with anybody besides Matt Patricia.
Yeah, exactly. Just throw that in there because it's 100% true. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people, or a couple of people say like, oh, Bill O'Brien, what did he do in Houston? Wasn't that great there? Who cares? Like you said, it's better than Matt Patricia. It's an actual offensive coordinator. And it's a guy that I think is going to be comfortable, obviously calling the plays here, comfortable in this organization, and comfortable with Mac Jones from the short time they shared at Alabama. So it's a move I'm happy with. And it's obviously a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the interesting thing as well is they're still in contact with Adrian Clem, maybe to help out with the offensive line. Ever since Skarnecki has been gone, it's been kind of tough to, find a rhythm at times for the O-line. When you lose such like a legend in that, in that realm of football, like Skarnecki was for so long. So I really like the steps they're taking. I like, the emphasis we've seen on, committing to Gerard Mayo as well. I really like, the early aspects of what they're doing here and the staff. So
yeah, it's one less thing to worry about. No, absolutely not.
Such a relief that they got this done early, and we don't have to, think about it for the rest of the offseason and get to work here. So
yeah, I think too, there's been some early indications. I can't think of the words tonight. Early indications that what's the bowl they're at right now? That I can't remember the name of it. Yeah, he's apparently a supervisor there, or is one of the head guys working there. So I think that gives a decent indication because, like you said, Gerard Mayo obviously taking an increased role this season. We don't obviously know what that's going to be, but he's a supervisor there as well. So I think that's kind of showing, at least to me, that Bill O'Brien's going to have a decent amount of say within the offense, and that's kind of what you're hoping for. You hope Bill Belichick rather kind of takes a step back. And kind of just lets Bill O'Brien do his thing. Maybe, pick some guys on the staff that he's comfortable with and can work with and knows that is going to be successful here. Like you mentioned, maybe he's a guy that's familiar with Adrian Clem. As you said, they're still in contact with. I don't know how I feel about him because some of the stuff I saw on Twitter, listening to Zolak talk about him, he's not a bad coach by any means, but there were some people when he was in Pittsburgh that kind of said that their offensive line wasn't the greatest from that run from 2019 to 2021. So maybe there's some hesitancy there. But again, it's one of those things where it's like, at least they're going out and doing this and doing their due diligence on some of these guys and showing that they want to make some changes to the coaching staff and thinks, this guy can help. I'm fine with that. Like you said, get out in front of things and get as many changes that you think is going to help the organization done as possible.
Yeah, works for me.
Yep.
Honestly, it's a good step. On to our divisional round recap, though. Like I said earlier, where the quantity of games each weekend is waning by the week, which stinks. But we're getting to more and more meaningful football at the same time, so that's fun. And we get started with the Chiefs and Jaguars, a game maybe closer than some expected, maybe not. and the Chiefs come out on top 27-20. The big story was the Mahomes injury, looked pretty rough. One of those awkward, collisions, if you want to call it that, or just, pig piles like around him. Not really like a big collision type thing, but
not a dirty play. Like I saw
yeah.
some Chiefs fans on Twitter say that. I can't remember who made the tackle on Mahomes. It was like, he just went for his leg and fell down. Like, no football play, shut up.
Yeah. But that's the big storyline, whether it'll hamper him against the Bengals or not. Chad Henne looked good when he came in, didn't blow the doors off, but was efficient, 5 for 7, 23 yards and a touchdown. The old reliable Chad Henne, sometimes reliable, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, the guys who needed to show up for the Chiefs showed up. Kelsey got in the end zone twice, had 14 catches.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Chiefs just took care of business. It got a little closer than they would have liked, I imagine. But, a win's a win in the end, and they'll try to keep Mahomes, upright in practice this week if he's in the mix at all, and see how he can hold up against the Bengals, because they're going to need him to.
Yeah, well, that's been my thing. I know, obviously, we've seen the different types of high ankle sprains this season that have been suffered. Obviously, the Mac Jones one, he was carried off the field. I know a lot of people kind of got their jabs in again at Mac Jones for seeing Mahomes come back and play, and obviously the video again of Jones.
That's so dorky to me.
Exactly, but it's different for everybody. Obviously, I saw the report today that he was a full participant at practice. So whenever I saw people that were like, "Oh, Mahomes, is he going to play in the AFC title game?" He's going to take, even if he's not 100%, he's taping it up. He's going out there and he's playing. He's not going to, obviously not sit out, but he's not going to be ruled out of the AFC title game. I don't think like this. It's a serious injury from what you hear. But like I said, I think it's more fuel to the fire of if he comes out and plays and wins, like I told you before we jumped on air here, that, Mahomes will be so great. He played through this high ankle sprain. I'm sure the guy's hurting. He's going to play. He's going to be fine. The Chiefs are going to make it a game, as we'll get into the predictions a little later. My big thing, though, obviously you said the biggest storyline from this game was that injury. My big takeaway from it was how bad Jacksonville's defensive game plan was coming into this game. What you just said, Kelsey goes for 14 catches on 17 targets and 2 touchdowns. I know the Chiefs have had some guys step up throughout the season. Marcus Valdes-Scantling has had his games. They found their run game a little bit. Their whole offense is around Travis Kelsey. He is the main pass catcher in that offense. He is the guy that, if he goes, they go. It seems like obviously Mahomes is great. He can make plays here and there most of the time. But I just don't know how you don't game plan better for Travis Kelsey. He just beat them over the head all game. And then the change up in the game, Mahomes obviously gets hurt, is hampered. He can't really throw off that back. He can't plant. You saw some ugly throws at times that he was able to just, barely get away. How do you not pressure him more? You said it, when Henne comes into the game, they're backed up on their 2-yard line, I think. How do you not pressure him more? Just the whole game plan defensively for the Jaguars was just incredibly strange. And maybe it was just their inexperience showing there. And the Chiefs obviously have been there plenty of times before. All right, that's where I was going to go and ask you that. Because that was just the most mind-boggling thing to me. It was the most frustrating thing to watch because, like you said, Jacksonville was in this game for the most part. I'm glad they made it a game. You and I kind of thought this had the potential to be a blowout. A lot of people thought that as well with, the lines and everything from a betting standpoint, but good test for the Jaguars, good experience builder there, but just, I can't excuse how bad that defensive game plan was.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. Not what you want, isn't it?
No, not even close. Unless you're a Chiefs fan, then you absolutely want it, but we do not want that. We are not Chiefs fans by any means.
Of course. Know what else you don't want if you're a Giants fan is to think about the final score of this game. The G-men traveled to Philadelphia and got stomped by the Eagles. 38-7. Philly, as advertised, came out of the bye week, prepared, and showed it.
Mm-hmm. No rust in the slightest. That was the thing that you and I talked about, is maybe there'd be a little bit. They were just off and running right from the get-go and really never looked back. Little pun intended, because of how great, 268 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns is absolutely insane. If you were a Giants fan, obviously the talk of the Giants this season, everyone had kind of talked about they were, in front of the curve a little bit. It was some people playing with house money, stuff like that. All those terms were thrown around. Obviously you want your team to win the Super Bowl when you go into the playoffs, but if you're a Giants fan, are you really, kicking yourself over this loss? Or are you sitting there going all right, we got into the divisional round. We made some more noise than we maybe probably should have. Yeah. I think you kind of have to take
Absolutely,
this season as a whole as a positive. I know it didn't end great. You get blown out by a division rival. But I feel like a lot of people, you kind of had to expect that going into this game. You know, there was maybe some talk of the Giants maybe shouldn't have been there. Again, with just the talent level being different. I think too, my big takeaway just shows how bad the Vikings were. To throw it back to that, you know, the Giants, you know, played really well against them and then come out and just lay an absolute egg here. Like the Vikings might have been the biggest fraud 13-win team in NFL history with how their season went down.
Yeah, and especially it's not just any win for the Giants too. You beat a team with the best receiver in the league and a team that won 13 games. So
absolutely.
I mean, a lot of Giants fans probably didn't expect to make the playoffs. So I think you have to take this if you're a Giants fan, but you know, it definitely does sting losing by that much.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, no rust from the Eagles, and they showed it. And I don't know, I'd be nervous if I'm a 49ers fan right now.
Really, even with how good that defense. I mean, this is probably the two best defenses left in the playoffs, Philly, and they can make the case the Cowboys. Absolutely. So maybe, you know, two of the top three left. I don't know, like the 49ers defense, man, it's stifling. Well, again, we'll get into the preview stuff because I had a kind of an interesting Jalen Hurts thing I wanted to bring up to get your thoughts on. But yeah, I mean, it's the number one seed, like you said, was as advertised in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Bengals and Bills. The Bills are just held to 10 points as they lose to the Bengals 27-10. Joe Burrow and the Bengals are moving on again in the same spot they were last year, you know, making a run here, maybe going back to the Super Bowl. We'll see. Joe Burrow was solid. He did what he needed to do. Didn't like blow you away. But the Bengals just got it done, man. And they got to have Bills fans scratching their heads right now.
I would be I mean, it's in the bill. I mean, I don't want to say I was, you know, not surprised by this because I mean, it was obviously they're at home. They're the higher seed. They've had the better season. You could argue they have the better quarterback in Josh Allen. Again, like I said about the Jaguars game, it kind of comes down to the game plan. On the flip side of it, the offensive side, it kind of just looked like Buffalo's offensive coordinator was like, all right, we have Josh Allen, go out there and win the game for us. 17-point obviously win, but this game, it at least to me felt like it was so much more of a blowout than it was just because of how dominant the Bengals were as a whole. Like both lines were great. Their O-line only allows one sack against a pretty solid Buffalo defense. Kind of crazy that obviously Von Miller out for the rest of the season and that defense kind of just crumbled late, which was really surprising. The D-line was great. 8 quarterback hits. You know, Hilton was fantastic in this game for the Bills, 2 tackles, or for the Bengals, 2 tackles for losses, a sack as well. Buffalo, of course, can't run the football, which is, it's always surprising to me. Just 63 total yards on the ground. They really made Josh Allen try to beat you with his arm, which he couldn't do. Just a weird game for the Bills. Cause again, to me, it kind of felt like they walked in there and said, we're the Bills, we're at home. And again, we have the better quarterback in some people's minds. So we're just going to beat you on that. And Cincinnati basically just said, F you, we're going to play exactly the way we played against you in that DeMar Hamlin game to start, come at you fast and just all over the place. And they were excellent in that game all around.
I mean, there's a trend starting here of the Bills just not being ready for the big moment.
It's in their DNA. Like they're big spot. They're choking dogs. It blows my mind too. Obviously that was the coolest game to watch because of the snow and everything and the atmosphere there. The fact that they're the Buffalo Bills and can't play in any sort of cold weather or bad weather is mind boggling to me.
Yeah. It's pretty effing strange and trouble in paradise in the locker room.
Do you think it's starting to come undone a little bit? There was a comment today I saw by their GM too saying basically, you know, was asked about the top receiver and asked about Jamar Chase and saying, you know, he doesn't want to ever suck as much as or not suck as much, but any thoughts on that comment? Obviously you're going to get to the dig stuff before I cut you off. Like you said, trouble in paradise in Buffalo, or is this just one of those things where it's, you know, tough loss, hard to swallow when they'll overcome it?
I think it's emotions, but like it's obviously but like it is interesting because this is one of those like relationships, Allen and Diggs, that is talked up so much. And we see all like the positivity, like pregame and stuff. And to see Diggs screaming at Josh Allen for Josh Allen to brush it off and act like it's not happening.
That was the best part of it, though. He's basically just like, leave me the fuck alone. I don't care.
And then Diggs is like causing a scene after the game. I don't know. And then he's spouting off on Twitter. I don't know if this like leads to anything changing in Buffalo. But it's not
maybe
great.
Because no, I mean this was obviously didn't do the same exact things, but they were the cracks in Minnesota. He was kind of at the helm of that, made some comments, if I remember correctly, about them, running the ball too much and not getting them involved. So there is a history there. But like you said, I mean, it's just so well documented that these two guys like seemingly love each other. I don't think that's just all smoke and mirrors. Again, I'm with you. It's probably emotions getting the better of guys, but it'll definitely be something down the line to watch, especially like you said, when you have these high of hopes, and it seems like everyone and their mother's picking you to be Super Bowl favorites, go to the Super Bowl and win it, finally get over that hump, and you have this much of a stinker of a performance. Again, it seems like it comes down, one team can get it done in this moment in Cincinnati and the other in the Bills. Like I said, this type of performance, this is what Buffalo is until they, are able to change my mind about it. Any big game that they're involved in, I'm going to bet against them because they just can't seem to figure it out. It's crazy to me with all this talent that they can't ever get it done.
It is weird. If I'm a Bills fan, I'm hoping for help in the run game and pass rush because they need both.
That was the thing too, though.
It sticks out to me how they didn't make a big time move for a running back at the deadline this year because they really could have used one. And I don't know if they, were willing to make a much more competitive offer for Christian McCaffrey, but they were a popular suitor for him and they didn't get him. And man, could they have used him in a game like this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was my big thing too, is Josh Allen obviously finishes the game as their leading rusher with 26, but they really didn't run the ball with him at all, which that's obviously one of his skill sets. They did a little bit out of the half. So obviously they tried to change things up, but you just can't, you're starting to find out you can't just rely, or the Bills are starting to find out you just can't rely on his arm to win you games because he's prone to make. Obviously, he had the one turnover. Burrow had played a perfect game for the most part when it comes to turnovers. And that's the big thing for me. Obviously, we talk about how electric Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes is, but call me crazy. I think Joe Burrow might be the smartest quarterback in the NFL when it comes to decision making and being obviously getting the comparisons to Brady a little bit with how he can adjust things to the line and read the defenses. Buffalo coming out and playing zone for the most part that he just picks apart was, again, a stupid game plan defensively. So I think Burrow is starting to creep, if he's not already there, should be in the conversation, especially if he wins this week, should be right up there with, everyone talks about Mahomes and Allen being the best two quarterbacks in the league. Burrow's got to be right there. And I think after this game may have passed Josh Allen in that discussion.
I think he has right now.
Oh, good. Glad we're in agreement.
Yeah, he processes the game at a different level, and he's shown that he can handle these big moments better than Josh Allen can. That's just an undeniable fact. This year, we've got a little bit of a early career sample size now, and we'll see if it changes. But I don't know if it will right now. I don't see.
There's no sign that
this type of intelligence being like a wavering thing for Joe Burrow, and I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it with the Bills. Changing the narrative here, but. Certainly interesting. Going to be interesting, for storylines with the Bills this offseason and going into next. But definitely didn't expect it to be a 17-point margin. Just like I didn't expect the Cowboys and 49ers game to be kind of boring.
Yeah, this was that's why when we did this prediction last week, I said I don't know why so many people were taking the over, or there was so much emphasis on the over because we said
I was all in on the over.
You were too. Yeah, that's what I was like. I'll take the under because these are two really good defenses. I did not. I don't think you fell into the trap of the Cowboys looking so good against the Bucs. Maybe some other people did, but like Dak against a great defense showed that he is not a good quarterback again in the big moment. And as we talked about, I think I said it months ago, weeks ago, whatever it was, he will lose you games before he wins you them. And that was clear cut on display in this one.
Yeah, I saw people joking like, could Cooper Rush have won this game? That was funny.
I don't know about that. Yeah, but
Brock Purdy, I mean, this is, he didn't play bad in this game, but this is the first game he didn't really do a whole lot. And it was still enough to win, which is a credit to the team around him. I hate to see a lot of people out there saying I could provide a list of 30 quarterbacks that could have won this game with the, system and, talent around Brock Purdy. You can think of so many quarterbacks. I think that's lame.
Yeah.
For a guy that's, come from where he's come from as the last pick in the draft to achieve all the success, to put him down like this is kind of stupid and pointless because it's just all hypothetical, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's lame, and I'm glad the 49ers are moving on because they're just so much more of an enjoyable team to watch than the Cowboys.
Yep.
I totally agree with your statement about, Dak, that he will lose you a game before he wins you one. San Fran's defense is very good. Their O-line, they're the best O-lineman in the league, and Trent Williams, and they're pretty stout more often than not. Man, like, we have a treat in the NFC Championship with the Eagles and the 49ers, because he made the case, arguably the best offense in the league and the best defense going at it. I wouldn't say it's rare that you see this, but it's not a guarantee. You think, oh, the best teams make it to the championship game, duh. But
Yeah.
I don't know if there's been a more like exciting NFC Championship recently than this.
No,
I mean, even Brock Purdy isn't the most glamorous name. Like, if you had like the third overall pick, Trey Lance healthy this year, lighting it up, like that's a bigger storyline, because you got this highly touted prospect, and maybe the name of Purdy isn't as exciting, even though he's played well. But man, this is going to be quite the NFC Championship, and like I said, I'm very glad that the 49ers pulled this one out instead of the stinky ass Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, I said it last week with a lot of the matchups. I think same thing. You got the best 4 teams remaining. I know Buffalo was obviously the higher seed than Cincinnati, but I think we can both be in agreement. If the regular season plays out like it was obviously supposed to, I don't think it's too crazy to say the Bengals would have had a shot at the number 1 seed, let alone the 2 seed, with how well they look down the stretch. Obviously, they're the hottest team in football, winning, what's it now, 10 games in a row, 11 games in a row, or something ridiculous. You talk about trouble in paradise with the Bills. I wanted to get your thoughts. I don't know if you saw her at the Cowboys. Had an interesting tweet when this game ended a couple of days ago. Pretty much the Twitter account themselves blamed Dak Prescott for this. I don't know if you saw the headline they have, but I have it here saying that this is from, like I said, their official Twitter page, the Dallas Cowboys, from 2 days ago. Dak Prescott gave the ball away twice in the narrow loss to the 49ers in a matchup the Cowboys had a chance to win if they didn't, again, generate self-inflicted wounds. I don't know if I've ever seen an official team Twitter go after the starting quarterback like that. Like, I can't imagine the Patriots, a couple of games they lost, maybe because of Mac Jones's play, doing that, or just any other team. That's wild to me. Dak didn't play great. But your thoughts on the last play of the game? I don't think I put that on Dak Prescott. That's more so on the Cowboys being stupid and the Cowboys coaching being like that whole sequence at the end of the game, let alone the lining Ezekiel Elliott up as a center just to get pancaked. I texted you the funniest play I have ever seen. I almost died laughing. Just because, again, just how much he gets blown up. And then Turpin, I think, was the receiver that caught the ball. He gets smoked too. But even before that, you have Dalton Schultz forgets that he has to be moving forward to get the clock stopped out of bounds. And then also forgets that he's not playing college football, where you have to get both feet down in bounds for it to be a catch, not just one. So yes, Dak Prescott did not play well. We're both in agreement that he'll lose you a game more so than win it. But the Cowboys, again, you said it during the season, you were waiting for them to show that they're the Cowboys and that they'll choke in a big moment. This was that. And it shows, again, Mike McCarthy struggles down the stretch when it comes to game management. You have the stuff too with the taking whatever it was, 30 seconds off the clock on that punt before he called a timeout. So it's the Cowboys again. Talk about it being Buffalo's DNA to screw things up at the end of games or in crunch time. That's what the Cowboys are too, which is just hysterical because it's the Cowboys and they'll just never seem to get out of their own way.
No, they never will. One of the things I noticed about Dalton Schultz this game was the thing he was wearing on his neck.
Oh, the concussion thing? Yeah, he's been wearing that for a while.
I didn't notice it until now. It's called a Q collar, which helps protect the brain from injury during head contact and increases blood flow in the brain's venous, or like the word to describe veins structures.
The last person to ask.
Harmful internal movement that causes brain injuries. Like, I thought to myself, I was like, why doesn't everyone wear one of these?
Yeah, I had the same discussion with my dad a couple weeks ago because he said the same thing. He's like, what the hell's on? Because a couple of it, he wears one, and then somebody else, like I said, a couple of games back, might have been Pollard actually might have been wearing one. And he said the same thing. He was like, what the hell's the thing around their necks? And I had to look it up. Probably got the same thing you just looked up. But yeah, you would think a lot. Maybe the NFL is something they're trying to push more on next season or moving forward, because it sounds like it's something that would absolutely be beneficial to a lot of players and people.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of seems like a no-brainer, but the Cowboys are going to cowboy, and for that reason, the 49ers will be playing in the NFC Championship and not the Cowboys.
Thank goodness.
49ers and Eagles. 49ers going to Philly for this one. 3 p.m. start on Sunday. Eagles -2.5 is the line. Over under is 45.5. I'm so excited for this game. Bengals and Chiefs is cool and it's going to be awesome, but like we've come to expect over the last few years, Bengals, Bills, Chiefs, more recently the Bengals last year.
Yeah, not a lot of parity.
Chiefs and Bills, and once the Patriots, but no longer, maybe soon. I'm so much more excited for this game because of what I was talking about earlier. Number one defense versus number one offense. If both teams come ready to play, this could be just an absolute slugfest, and it'll be awesome.
Yeah, see, I'm on the like I said, we'll get into predictions a little later, but I'm more on the opposite side. Like I think this is probably gonna, maybe I'm just so high on the 49ers defense that I think that you're gonna get another 49ers Cowboys type of game where the Eagles struggle to get things going because the Niners defense is so good. But then again, same thing with the Eagles defense. Like you said, their offense is phenomenal. Yes, as you mentioned earlier too, Brock Purdy. He's not going to light the world on fire, but it's more so about the guys around him. And obviously, we didn't even get into it. Kittle had such a great game in the Dallas game, had 5 catches, had an amazing catch that he juggled off his face. That was great. Debo obviously is electric no matter what he does. McCaffrey was held down in check for the most part in that Cowboys game. You got to think he bounces back in this one, or the Niners try to use him a little bit more and are able to. It's going to be a great game. Obviously, some game thoughts and some questions I thought we could run through, get some thoughts on. For me, if you have any, feel free to add them. But just, will the Eagles be able to dominate on the ground like they did against the Giants? Obviously, during the season, the Niners boasted arguably the best run defense in the league. They were second in yards allowed, only behind Tennessee. Second in yards per game allowed, only behind Tennessee. And then they were tied for first with the Titans for yards, average yards with 3.4. Like you said, Eagles were great. They got, I think, 3 rushing touchdowns on the ground against the Giants, over 200 yards. You were shaking your head earlier. I'm with you. I don't think they're going to be able to do that. They're going to have Jalen Hurts throw the ball a decent amount in this game. And I don't know if he's going to be up for that, as we'll get to in another kind of game thought. But I'll stop rambling. I'll give it to you if you have any extra thoughts you want to add.
No, yeah, I think if the Eagles are going to succeed on the run, it's going to be coming from Jalen Hurts scrambling more so than it's going to be up the middle. And stuff like that. Like I think in order to win this game, the Eagles are going to have to get like 80 to 100 yards from Jalen Hurts on the ground, which is totally attainable. Knowing how good Jalen Hurts has been as a runner this year, but it is going to be an interesting challenge because there have been games here and there that the Eagles don't have, like, in terms of names, like the sexiest running game out there, but they can explode. So if they can explode on the ground and push the 49ers front 7 back a little bit, this becomes a way different game than most people are probably expecting. So that's going to be really interesting to monitor.
All right. So you kind of answered the next one I had, but like I said, for me, it's probably going to come down to Hurts. If he can beat the Niners through the air. There is one example of that not being the case. The one loss Jalen Hurts had this season, obviously, to the Commanders. Commanders held Philly as a team to, what'd you say?
So weird.
Right. That's just the type of season the Commanders have. You play great games like you played against the Eagles, and you make dumb decisions and make Carson Wentz your quarterback because you don't know that when you do that, if you lose, you could be eliminated from the playoffs. So weird year for the Commanders, but I expected nothing less from that franchise with how that team's run. But yeah, in that game, the Commanders held the Eagles to just 94 total rushing yards. Hurts threw for 175 yards. And the Commanders defense forced 3 fumbles that were all lost to Eagles wide receivers / tight ends. Quez Watkins, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert had fumbles in that game. The 175 yards was the 4th least amount of passing yards Hurts had on the year. So there is a book for it, or game plan for it. If you make Hurts throw the ball a little bit more than maybe he's used to, or like you said, obviously, he's so great on the ground. You turn him into more of a pocket passer, you might have a chance to win this game. That's what it's going to come down to for me, because I'm with you. Philly, we've seen it before. Their ground game can explode at any time, but I think the 49ers defense is just so dynamic and so fast that it's going to cause Philly problems. The other thing for me, too, is we kind of mentioned it, Brock Purdy looked human for the first time against the Cowboys defense. Can the Eagles take advantage of that and, maybe take that a step further?
Yeah, absolutely. And man, this game is going to be nuts. And one thing I picked up, I didn't notice when I was looking through the outline earlier. It's kind of crazy that 175 passing yards was Jalen Hurts' 4th least amount of passing yards. Like, I would have never guessed he had 3 games where he threw for less passing yards than that. But I guess it
was one game he threw for like 125, which is kind of crazy too.
That's pretty wild as I yawn here.
Mhm.
Injury reports for both teams. One guy
Nothing official, really quick. Sorry to cut you off. I was looking right before we jumped on again. These are just from the little ESPN blurbs. So take them with
Yeah.
a grain of salt. They're not from the official teams or anything.
Yep. We got Christian McCaffrey listed on the injury report for the 49ers, Elijah Mitchell, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Charles Omenihu. We're going to safely say that Charles Omenihu will not be playing as he was arrested on a misdemeanor domestic violence charge.
Yeah, I think he's out.
He will play if he's healthy, though, according to Kyle Shanahan. That's kind of fucking
That's
bizarre.
a little scummy, yeah.
For somebody who just got arrested, but I don't make the rules. AJ Brown and Avonte Maddox were on the injury report today for the Eagles. On to predictions, though. I went back and forth on this so many times. I wanted to pick the Eagles. I wanted to pick the 49ers. So I settled on what I felt was best.
You flip a coin to figure out which one you wanted?
Pretty much in my head.
Yeah.
I'm going 49ers 23-20, lower scoring game. I do think it could be quite the opposite, and we could see tons and tons of points, even though, the 49ers have this really good defense, top of the league, and, the Eagles aren't much of a slouch either. But I'm going 23-20 49ers. This is going to be a, low scoring slugfest where these teams just batter each other, I think.
I'm with you. Low scoring game. I have 20-18 Niners. Like, same thing. I think you're going to get more points.
Game-winning
Probably
field goal, perhaps.
What's up?
Game-winning field goal, perhaps, in that score.
Yeah, maybe down the see if Brock Purdy can lead a game-winning drive in the ends. I just don't think either quarterback's going to be able to get a ton going, either on the ground or in the air, whatever. I think you could very well see more defensive scores than offensive scores in this game. That's just how good these two defenses are. But in the end, I just think, the Niners have more weapons, in my opinion. I think that's an obvious thing to say. And then it's going to come down to being able to cover those weapons. Philly might struggle with that. Niners all the way. It's just, again, I think they're the better defense, the better all-around team. I know the Eagles proved a lot last week against the Giants and played really, really well as a team as a whole. But the thing too, we talked about experience, stuff like that. The Niners have been here before. The Eagles really haven't. Obviously it's Brock Purdy's first playoff run. But there's guys on that Niners team that have, been in the big spots before. Obviously Shanahan's been there plenty of times. Is this the year he finally gets over the hump and doesn't make a crucial mistake late in the game in the playoffs? We'll see. But yeah, I got the Niners.
Me as well. Bengals at Chiefs. Sunday 6:30. Bengals -1.5 is the line. Maybe they know something about Patrick Mahomes. I don't know.
Maybe it changed. It was 2.5, and the over/under I think was 45.5 last when I pulled it up today, and then it changed a couple hours before this.
Over/under 47. Rematch of Week 13, as you have listed here. Bengals won 27-24. Main storyline this week is, will Joe Burrow go 4-0 against Patrick Mahomes or not?
I think he will, to spoil some things, but I mean, he's been excellent in these games. I know the numbers are pretty similar, but just looking at it, obviously, like you said, 3-0. His completion percentage in these games better than Mahomes is 72-67. Burrow's throwing for more yards in this game, 327-252 for Mahomes. And he's made that's what it's going to come down to me. Who makes the mistakes? We talked about it in the Bills recap, how smart of a quarterback Burrow is. That's not saying Mahomes is dumb by any means. But that injury obviously is going to affect the way he throws. It's going to affect his decision-making. Probably not going to be able to scramble as much as he does and keep plays alive. So maybe he tries to play some hero ball here and there, maybe throws a bad pick or two, or loses the ball trying to scramble, gets hit from behind, something like that. Burrow's got 8 touchdowns to 1 pick. Mahomes in these games, 6 touchdowns to 2 picks. Burrow's been pretty good as a whole in these games. So it's going to be a great game. It stinks that Mahomes is probably going to be hampered, as much as I don't like Patrick Mahomes. You obviously never root for a guy's injury. So that's kind of the big thing, as you said, how is Mahomes' ankle going to hold up? Like I said, practice today, that was the report I saw. I think Schefter had it, but you got to think he's going to be hampered by it all game.
Yeah, I don't see how he isn't. Be pretty surprising to me.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously Chiefs fans are hoping for quite the opposite of that, because that would make things tough sledding. 100%.
Absolutely.
The injury report: Alex Kappa for the Bengals starts it off. DJ Reader, that's a big one, but he was just resting. Jonah Williams, Joe Bacci, Trey Flowers, Sam Hubbard, and Sam Hubbard was also resting, and Ted Karras. We got a McCole Hardman, Willie Gay Jr., Patrick Mahomes, and Jerick McKinnon. So some big names for the Chiefs. It's interesting. There's a trend in these games. Burrow versus Mahomes. Every single game has finished by a 3-point margin.
Mm-hmm.
I am straying from that, though.
You're breaking the trend. Yeah.
I'm breaking the trend. I'm going Bengals 27, Chiefs 17. I think this ankle injury is going to affect Patrick Mahomes more than some people expect. I think he's going to be limited running the ball and doing his hero ball type tactics. I'm all in on the Bengals here. I think they win by minimum a touchdown. And I'm not saying that's like to be like, oh, they're going to blow out the Chiefs, but I don't think this is going to be as close as these games typically are. I'm going Bengals 27-17. Boring score, but I think that this bucks the trend. Burrow goes 4-0 and goes back to the Super Bowl against the 49ers.
I'd be very happy with that. I have the same matchup as you. I do not have the same score, though.
You are not bucking the trend.
No, I'm not bucking the trend. It's a 3-point game as well. I don't think it's going to end in a field goal, though. I think the Bengals, maybe, I don't want to say just survive this game because I think they're the better team all around. I don't think I'm sure he's hurting. I'm sure it's a very painful injury, a high ankle sprain, but it's Patrick Mahomes. I just think he's going to come out and still play well, still put on a show because that's what he does. 30-27 Bengals for me. The two other points I had from this game, I wanted to, questions really quick. Travis Kelce has kind of been a mixed bag against the Bengals. Week 13 this season was held in check, 4 receptions, 5 targets, 56 yards. But in that AFC title game a year ago, he was absolutely dominant. 10 catches on 11 targets, 95 yards and a touchdown. Very similar stat line to what he had against the Jaguars. Got to think the Bengals will actually cover him, unlike the Jaguars did. So hopefully they can do that. And that's the one thing for me that could maybe come out to a score like you have, is if they shut down Kelce and Mahomes can't get anything going, then this game has all the possibility to be a Bengals blowout. But Andy Reid has been here before, knows how to, coach have a pretty good scheme. I think he'll have some things figured out. On the Bengals side of things, though, obviously people talk about Mixon had a great game last week, over 100 yards rushing. Chase is going to dominate like he did, was great in that AFC title game a year ago. Samaje Perine might be the sneaky weapon for the Bengals in this game. Last year's AFC title game, he had 3 catches on 4 targets for 43 yards and a touchdown. Did not run the ball at all, but he was a factor in that title game last year. A surprise player there. Week 13, the Bengals did not have Joe Mixon. He was out with that concussion. Perine was great in that game. 21 rushes, 106 yards, 6 catches, 49 yards on 7 targets. So maybe he's someone that can get involved in this game for the Bengals. And like I said, be that sneaky weapon that propels them to a win.
Certainly could be. Keep an eye out.
All right.
Because maybe the Bengals do try to mix him in there. It wouldn't surprise me at all. We'll see if the trend of 3-point victories continues or not.
I'd like this to be such a comfortable win for the Bengals. I mean, obviously a close game would be a great game, but if the Bengals come out and dominate again like they did against the Bills, I will be through the roof happy with that performance, because I just don't, as we know, I don't want to see the Chiefs succeed. And I would like to propose the question again, if they do lose, when is that Chiefs dynasty getting off the ground that everyone has been telling me about for the last couple of years?
Oh, Ryan, I hate to break it to you, but it hasn't quite done that.
Oh, not yet? No?
Yeah. I hate to break it to you, but
all right,
it's very much still the case.
I'll keep holding out like everyone else is for that to finally come to be. But the one thing too, really quick on that, because I saw some people, Stephen A. Smith, I think, was the one talking about it, that if Burrow beats Mahomes again, we have to make the conversation for Burrow being the best quarterback in the NFL. I like Joe Burrow, but I wouldn't go that far. Like, Mahomes still has the accolades on him. He still has the MVPs. He's probably going to win another one this season. Still has, obviously, we haven't seen if Burrow can get back to the Super Bowl and win it this year, but Mahomes does have that on him. Does have, obviously, the 5 straight AFC Championship games. So yes, Burrow will be good. There will definitely be a conversation about it, but I don't think the answer is that Joe Burrow would be a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes if he proceeds to go 4-0 against Mahomes here. I don't know if do you feel any different? Do you think
it will be the topic of discussion for the offseason, though? I know that for a fact.
It will be, absolutely. But do you think if he does beat him, that you really
say yes?
Okay.
That if Burrow beats him again, he is better than Patrick Mahomes. 4-0. I mean, that's
true. The numbers back it up. Yeah, I mean,
starts and ends. Burrow is, nobody processes the game at the quarterback position like him.
Fair enough.
I'd give him the edge.
Okay.
Especially if he wins by 10 points, like I'm predicting.
Well, exactly. Yeah, that definitely. There's factors that can go into here. If he blows him out or comes out, Mahomes has like 3 picks, Burrow plays a perfect game, throws 4 touchdowns, something like that, then you definitely could make the argument even better. Yeah, I'm definitely will be the talk of the offseason, though. You're 100% right there.
Yep. It sure will be. Gonna be a fun conference championship weekend. Looking forward to it very much so. To wrap up the show, we have Bruins and Celtics. We might as well just start with Bruins.
Sure.
And it's much of the same, but no losses this week. No, loss mixed in there like the Seattle one was. But I mean,
I'm sure people enjoy listening to us talk about the Bruins, but in all honesty, like for the last dozen shows, you can really just go back and listen to those and just insert whoever the Bruins played last week with the teams they played this week. And basically every outline for those games is probably going to be the same. Like, oh, these guys scored, they played well. Swayman was awesome. Olmark was awesome. Like, it's just the same thing over and over again. Like,
it's crazy. Like, quickest team ever to 80 points, 38 wins in 47 games. Pastrnak has 37 goals. He had points on every single goal last night. A wagon in every sense of the word, and it just keeps, that wagon just keeps getting sturdier as the season goes along. Looking back though, in the past week of games, we go to Long Island to play the Islanders. 4-1 win. You got some scoring from your back end. I got good goaltending from Olmark, 25 saves and 26 shots. That power play goal by Marchand just was way too easy for them. It just looked like very casual. Classic prank by Frederick, falling while going to the net, then getting up and scoring on the pass from Coyle. Good one. While we're talking about Olmark, I wanted to reference this graphic from moneypuck.com that just puts a little more, absurdity in how good Linus Olmark has been. His goals save above expected per 60 minutes is a .939. The next highest in the league is a .691.
You're sure that's not a typo? There's not a single typo anywhere on that. Typo. Okay. All right.
Very real.
That's definition of video game stats right there.
It's insane. It's like you could make a goalie in NHL at 200 overall.
Yeah.
Save percentage on unblocked shots, he leads the league at a .968. Next highest is .961. Expected save percentage on unblocked shots, he leads the league in that as well. Second in the league, in this. Just behind Jake Ottinger at .952. He's at .951. And save percentage above expected, he leads the league with a .017. So 0.017 points above expected for his save percentage. Just a ridiculous man on a mission this year. Absolutely has the Vezina in a chokehold right now.
I would say so. I saw I can't remember who the Twitter account was. I saw too, but said, can we make an argument too that maybe he should get the MVP award as well?
It's like he's like the new Shesterkin.
You could make a case. I mean, yeah, we had this discussion last year too, a couple years ago. Whenever he won or had that phenomenal year. I think you were the one that brought it. Yeah, last year. I think you brought it up. It's like he could definitely get some MVP consideration as well. I think you could definitely make the case for Olmark as well. Like maybe not now with how well Swayman has played, but if Swayman goes into a little bit more of a funk again, and Olmark continues to just absolutely dominate, I think you definitely could say the Bruins really had to turn to a one goalie system and he was up for the case. But I don't think it's going to be the case. Just again, as we'll get to a little later on with the games, Swayman's been phenomenal as well. So that's like the thing with this Bruins team with me. It's like we come in here to do this. It's like, all right, can you find anything to talk about? No. It's like, maybe that's what I mean. It gives you any sort of inkling that, maybe something's wrong here or there's something needs to be fixed. Like that was the problem early on in the season with Swayman wasn't playing that great. And there were some questions with a little Q because it wasn't a huge question mark or anything. But he's figured it out now too. So this team is just rolling. I think right now, the injury bug, maybe. I know DeBrusque is coming back. Nosek just went out. Other than that, there really isn't anything to fret about with this team.
Yeah, fourth line injury doesn't hurt that much when you have.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
the Bill Ricka kid, Mark McLaughlin waiting in the wings, maybe to play tomorrow, season debut against the Lightning. But yeah, I mean, we're talking a month ago about Swayman struggling a little bit. Now he's fourth in the league in goals against.
That's ridiculous.
He's creeping up on Omar.
Yeah.
He's at like a 2.25 now, I think. Ridiculous.
It's just coming in the rearview mirror.
Best goalie tandem in the league, and it's not even close. Speaking of Swayman, next night, second half of a back-to-back against the Rangers on the road. He makes 31 saves and 32 shots. Huge effort from him. The Bruins went 3-1 in this one. Pavel Zacha stays hot with a nice tip on a Krejci goal. And it was just a great effort overall in a back-to-back and a tough place to play. Love to see that from the New York back-to-back, winning both. San Jose a little easier. A few days later, they get some rest. They went 4-0. Linus Ullmark made 17 saves in the shutout. Jeremy Swayman did come in and make one save on the lone shot he faced when Ullmark had an equipment malfunction, needed his skate blade fixed, which Taylor Hall helped him with, pushing him to the bench.
Hilarious video. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Swayman came in, so they share the shutout, I suppose. But I think Swayman won't have much of a problem giving more credit to Ullmark on that one.
Yeah.
It was another game for defensemen to score. Going into this past week, the Bruins are one of the lowest in the league in terms of defensive goal scoring. Now we get Forbort scoring. We got McAvoy scoring a couple times. We've seen Grizzlick score a couple times. Connor Clifton and Hampus Lindholm dangles past a Sharks player, and Snipes. I mean, he's so ridiculous. I can't believe he's this good.
I know, right?
Then you have Charlie McAvoy one up him with arguably the goal of the season for the Bruins. Just ridiculous. Looked like a forward, but absolutely is not. Just absolutely went sicko mode. And Una Kapanen, first NHL point on Nick Foligno's goal. He had two nice plays on that goal there, but the second setup there ended up being the assist he needed to get that first point. And David Pastrnak, adds a garbage time goal for number 36 in this one, as he tries to catch up to Connor McDavid. He stands at second in the league right now. Tage Thompson slowing down a little bit, so maybe Pastrnak can separate himself a little bit. And that's not to say Tage Thompson's playing bad, but I feel like he hasn't been scoring as much lately.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you're playing a bad team, and you may look like a bad team, as expected with how good the Bruins are in comparison. Then you have Montreal on the road, first time at Bell Center all year. Can't believe it took this long. Stupid schedule makers.
So dumb, yeah.
It was a cool one for AJ Greer. He's from that area of Canada. It's something he dreams about. He talked about with Sophia Jurkovic in between periods, which is a really cool interview. I recommend checking that out for anybody who hasn't seen it. And like you think with how he was talking in the offseason about being so excited to be back in Boston. He played at BU. You think he'd be from Boston with all those comments, but he is from Canada, so he gets a little taste of both, playing for the Bruins and a place he's got so many fond memories of. It was really cool to see him talk about that. Jeremy Swayman makes 20 saves on 22 shots in this one. Wasn't the Bruins' best effort recently. I don't know if they played down to Montreal a little bit, but definitely didn't play their best. Taylor Hall gets a dirty one to get off the schneid for him. It was his first goal since December 17th, where he had scored, back-to-back games against the Kings and I believe maybe Columbus. And then just went on a dry spell scoring. Still putting up points, though. He gets off the schneid, though. Bergeron added to the list of clutch plays from Patrice Bergeron, scores a huge goal. He was fired up, celebrated with Clifton afterwards. An empty net goal by Pasta makes number 37 for him. Like I said earlier, he factored in on all 4 goals, and was just classic Pastrnak. And the really, the only real thorn in the side for the Bruins tonight was Kirby Dach, and he's, he was a big trade acquisition for them this offseason. One of the bright spots there for the future. And talk about a guy who's benefiting from a change of scenery and made the game a pain in the ass for the Bruins more so than they would have liked last night. He's looked pretty solid for Montreal this year. One of the few bright spots, for a team that had Cole Caulfield tearing it up. Nick Suzuki hasn't scored in a long time, but he's good. And, now you got Cole Caulfield sidelined for the season with shoulder surgery. It's nice to see, some glimpse of hope for Montreal, even though their fans are rooting for everyone to suck and them to lose for Connor Bedard at this rate. It's got to be nice to see that bright spot, when you gave up a good amount for Kirby Dach. The Bruins took care of business. They took care of business this whole week. They keep rolling. They're 38-5-4, which is completely ridiculous.
It's insane. On pace to shatter the all-time win record or all-time point record, right? At this point,
the
like
95-96 Red Wings, who were insane.
yeah, well, the Bruins were in that territory. Yeah,
their roster really is astonishing to look back. Look back at if you're a hockey fan, like they were so stacked. The Red Wings were so good at just around this time period in general. Dino Ciccarelli, Paul Coffey, Chris Draper, Sergei Fedorov. I don't know how to say his first name, but Fetisov was good on defense for them. They had a same name, Vakoslav. I'd never know how to say that Russian name. They had Kozlov and Konstantinov as well. A lot of Russians on this team. Igor Larionov, Marty Lapointe, former Bruin, Nicholas Lidstrom, Chris Maltby, Darren McCarty, Chris Osgood in net. Like they were stacked. Steve Eisman, of course, leading the way as captain. That was just a ridiculous team. To see the Bruins, potentially have a better season than them would just be
insane,
out of this world. Like that team was a full blown wagon in the mid 90s, and to see the Bruins top them would be nuts. Like we say every episode now, there's not really much to like look back and be like, oh, are we worried about this? Is this going to bleed into next week? Nope, not really.
Yeah.
So they do have a Florida trip and a road trip coming up in general. An Eastern Conference swing starting with Tampa tomorrow night. Tampa, third in the Atlantic, 30-15-1. Nikita Kucherov is looking like Nikita Kucherov this year. Got 68 points in 46 games. His 49 assists are tied with Erik Karlsson for the league lead. We know the deal with Tampa. They took a little step back, but they're still very much a threat. Should be a really good game. Then you get Florida 2 nights later on Saturday night. Matthew Tkachuk is making the trade look real nice with the Huberdeau Weegar Tkachuk trade. He's got 62 points in 47 games, while Jonathan Huberdeau is being used in very strange ways on the second line and third line at times. In Calgary, and they're not getting much out of him, despite paying him $10.5 million.
That's rough.
But they're middling. They're kind of turning it around a little bit slowly, but they've got the Sabres, trying to unseat them as a potential top 4 team in the conference or the division, and are making things tough for Florida. But this is a team where they're losing Bobrovsky now, and they came into the year after trading Weegar with a weak looking defense, and it showed. And now you lose your starting goalie. It's tough sledding for Florida, and maybe we'll see Spencer Knight. Maybe we'll see someone else. I don't even know who their backup is right now, to be honest with you. But yeah, it should be, a decent game against Florida. I don't think you can really count on a 7-3 victory like you had like a month ago, but maybe you can. Carolina next up, second half of a back-to-back over Florida, Carolina. Carolina's number 1 in the Metro, 29-9-8. Martin Necas is leading them in scoring. Didn't expect to be saying that this year, despite being, he's a really good player, but 41 points in 46 games, not getting a whole lot of top-end scoring this year. Kind of why I've been thinking all year they could be in the market for a scoring winger. Maybe it's going to be Timo Meier or Vladimir Tarasenko. We'll see. But still a really good team. They lose Max Pacioretty. The guy can't catch a break. He missed the first, 20, 30 games of the season, I think, and now I believe he might be out for the year. Guy just can't catch a break. Excuse me if I'm wrong there, but I think he's out for the year, or at least for the regular season. Then you get Toronto 2 days later. They're 29-11-8, second in the Atlantic. William Nylander and Mitch Marner share the scoring title for the Leafs right now, both with 56 points in 48 games. In a normal year, they might be number 1 in the conference or even the division, but not this year.
That's a perfect way to describe it too, just to show how much of a freak, like not freak in a bad way, but like just an absolute freak of a season the Celtics, the Bruins have had. Like this is a stretch. Like you talk about things you could like worry you. This is a stretch in a normal season that you'd be like, oh, there's a lot of tough games coming up there. Like you said, Tampa 30-win team, Toronto and Carolina right there with 29 wins. And you're like, all right, the Bruins have proven they could beat all these teams. So it's like, yeah, they'll take 3 out of 4 from that probably. Like they might struggle with Florida because, maybe that becomes a trap game, but they'll dominate the 3 other teams because that's what they've done against good teams all season too. So like that's where we're at right now. We're a stretch like this. You sit there and you go, all right, You expect them to win 3, if not all 4 of those games coming up because they've just been able to dominate literally everybody.
Yeah, and it really is crazy the more and more it happens, but still there's people out there talking trades all season. Should they get this guy? Should they get that guy? I have been very much in the camp all season. Do not disturb this
Sit
group
still.
and maybe add a depth forward. Do not disturb this group right now. I just don't see the point.
That's what I mean. There's not one weak link you can really think of that you could take out.
It's just crazy that people are so hell bent on talking trade. Like, this team has won 38 games in 47 games. Like, why are we talking about who they should trade for so much and giving up first round picks and prospects?
Again, in a normal year, I get, people will always make the argument a trade can energize the locker room or a change of scenery can energize a player. It's the Bruins don't need a shot in the arm in the locker room. That's the thing, is everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing right now. I know, it's looking back at it, when I said maybe what's one thing you could kind of shake your head at and be what's going on there, is you mentioned it, the Hall slump that he was in, but he just scored. So maybe he's going to come out of that now. So and
he's still producing when he wasn't scoring.
Exactly. Goals. It's kind of the same thing I think I said last week about Zacha, where it's all right, the guy wasn't putting up a ton of points before he went on this burner now. But he was still doing things that helped you secure wins and help you, make plays here and there. So it's not like he's a guy that you're all right, this guy stinks, he's not doing anything. There really is, like you said, I don't know if I would make really any sort of move at all. Because you said, a depth forward, you have those, as you mentioned, coming up with McLaughlin, the Kopanen, however you say it. He didn't look terrible the other night for a 4th line winger or a 4th line center. So it seems like right now, any guy, it's kind of the Alex Cora effect from 2018. Any button that's pushed, it's the right move and it's the right thing, and everything's coming up gold right now for the Bruins.
If I could say one guy I think they could, be in the market for, is maybe upgrading the 4th line with a guy like Nick Bonino in San Jose. They love their BU guys too. Yeah. They love their BU guys. He's a guy that's got playoff experience. He's won a Stanley Cup or 2 with Pittsburgh, I believe. I think he's definitely won 1, maybe 2. I'd like him, but that's the only area of the team I think they really could maybe use another piece. Just add a depth forward, because I think the defensive depth is really solid. So is their forward depth, but I don't know. I think they got to do something, and I think if they could add depth, I'd rather see it up front.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
I think they can afford to upgrade on Thomas Nosek. I really do. And think of it this way: the Bruins have spent a lot of picks in the past few years, and they had needs the last 2 years. They needed a guy like Taylor Hall. They got one. They needed a left shot defenseman like Hampus Lindholm, or who's the other guy that was Jacob Chikrin, who's still untraded right now. They got that guy. They don't have that glaring need this year.
Not really. No.
Maybe they would have if David Krejci didn't come back, but he did. You don't need centers. You don't need Bo Horvat for a year to leave him on the wing.
That was going to be the one guy I asked you about to close things out here, because I saw his name come up a lot. I feel like he's a guy that would cost a ton too. So it's the
thing with Horvat is, if you want him, you probably need to trade for him this year and extend him long term, because I think any team that does that this year is going to do that. But what do you do if Bergeron and Krejci want to come back? You're not going to say no to them.
True.
And right now, neither of them are giving overwhelming signs that they have plans on going anywhere else.
True.
Bergeron, you had that chant in the locker room this year, one more year, and he was all hoorah about it. Kind of seemed like he was into it, and he's still playing awesome. David Krejci has not lost a step. I don't think this is the right type of year to shell out a valuable pick, even though it could be the 32nd pick in a stacked draft, and Fabian Lysell and something else for Bo Horvat.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. No.
If you're doing anything for a big splash, I think it's for a guy like Timo Meier or Vladimir Tarasenko, and that's what I will leave the people with. Because if anything,
would you give up to get Tarasenko though? Is he not going to cost a lot?
That's the thing. He does cost a lot, but if you can add a scoring winger, I think it makes more sense than adding a center.
Okay.
If you're really going to go all in, I want them to do it for a scoring winger. Just
fair enough. Yep.
To, the rich get richer type of thing. But again, it's one of those things. You don't have that glaring need like you did when you got Taylor Hall and you got him. And when you needed a guy like Hampus Lindholm and you got him last year. There's not that mindset this year. So that's what I'll leave the people with for some trade talk here. But to wrap up the show, we do have the green team who got their revenge on the Golden State Warriors last
Yeah,
week.
first time in a while we've been talking Celtics because it's been it's been the same thing really with the Bruins. I mean, they've played well all season. They've hit a couple of snags here, maybe more so than the Bruins have all season when they've just been dominating everybody. But it's been an up and down week for the Celtics. I've seen some people on Twitter maybe starting to, I don't want to say freak out because that's maybe too extreme of a word. But there are some questions with how things have gone the last couple of games. I think there have been some minor problems that have reared their ugly head that we've seen in the past that need to be, knocked out, but nothing I'm getting too worried about. As you said, starting off, just a quick week recap as we do with the Bruins. I thought we'd do that with the Celtics really quickly. You said it, Golden State, they get their revenge, 121-118 overtime win for the Celtics. Game did not start off great throughout the majority of it. It looked like it was going to be another case of the finals. Golden State played pretty well. Brown and Tatum did not get off to great starts. Tatum didn't get off to a great start as a whole and, didn't have the best shooting game, but I thought you saw some steps forward for him in this game. Obviously, we've talked about it before. People have made the jokes that the Warriors are in Tatum's head rent free. He struggles against that team. 34 points, 19 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, 7 turnovers. I'll get to the turnovers in a second. But just some of the stuff I saw from that game from Tatum. Played 48 minutes. He played the final 41 minutes of that game. So obviously it's a game that seemed like it meant a lot to him. And obviously a game that he knew he had to be in there to play and, get over the hump type of thing there. As I said, shooting wasn't great. He only shot 33% from the field, but he found ways to contribute and get his points. He got to the line when he wanted to, didn't miss a free throw, was 12 of 12 there, had a big 3-pointer in overtime and 2 clutch free throws at the end of the game to help, end up being the difference in that one. On the flip side though, this is kind of where people are starting to get a little upset with Tatum and starting to maybe freak out a little bit there. The 7 turnovers in that game, had a big turnover number in the Miami game last night and a couple of crucial ones as well. 7 turnovers, yes, were bad in the Golden State game. But like I said, to me, you saw improvement. You saw the game mattered to him to play the 41 last minutes of the game. You saw him hit the big shots late in crunch time. So there's that. And like the game too, Steph Curry didn't shoot all that well. So I'm not going to lose my mind over that. Tatum, he showed up. He played decent enough to help him get the win, especially down the stretch. Some other stuff from this game, Al Horford, he played great, was up for the moment again, 20 points. He was there, main driving force in the first quarter, had 10 points, 5 rebounds, had a great chase down block on Jordan Poole, and had a couple of awesome moments where he'd back and Wiggins down in the paint and gave him the little too small thing, which I always like to see. But it wasn't, I don't know if you caught any of it. It wasn't like the demonstrative guys, like they'll do the 2 way down thing. It was kind of every time he ran up the court, just gave a little like on the side type of thing. Or like a typical Al Horford, I'm not going to show you up, but I am going to kind of show you up a little bit.
Mild-mannered, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Just a little behind-the-scenes type of thing or, undercover type of thing. And then to me, we talked about it in the finals, how I wanted to see the Celtics approach those games because they're so much more physical and a bigger team than the Warriors. And they never really did that, mainly in part because Rob Williams was hurt for the most part of that series, of course, was dealing with the injuries, trying to play through them. You finally saw a healthy Rob Williams in this game, and you saw what that factor could be. Boston outscored Golden State 52-30 in points in the paint, 22-14 in second chance points, and 11-6 in fast break points. All things we talked about during those finals games that they needed to do, they did in this game. Early on in the game, it looked like guys like Horford, Smart, and Williams wanted to exploit their smaller matchups. And like I said, the second chance points was a big thing. Rob Williams was huge in that because 7 of his 11 rebounds were offensive rebounds, kept plays alive. Like I said, wasn't the prettiest of games. I don't know how much you caught of it. But there were definitely some things in this game that I think were building blocks that you could take moving forward. I didn't have any outline, but Brown, like I said, started off really, really bad. I think it was mainly in part because he was obviously dealing with his injury, but he played well down the stretch, was good in overtime. And the Celtics, like I said, finally gave you a little bit of something against the Golden State Warriors and got a little over the hump here. Obviously, you got to do it on the big stage in the finals, obviously, to get fully over the hump. But I think there were some definite building blocks here that you can take away and maybe feel a little decent about.
Yeah. I mean, it was a close game, and they had to play some bully ball at times here to take a statement or a phrase from Jersey Jerry that he likes to use. But yeah, it was a game they had to grind out. As you said, Steph didn't have like his greatest game, but they still kept this close with a 3-point victory. And seeing how Tatum played in this game, this game was personal to him, was really nice to see because that's just what you want to see from your leader after you're facing a team that you want vengeance against, even if it's just a game in the middle of the regular season. And you did see what could have been if Rob Williams was his normal self last year.
Yeah.
That's got to, give reassurance to people, because I imagine, the Celtics have been good, but there's got to be people out there that are wondering, like, is Rob Williams going to make enough of a difference to get it done this year if we make the run? Is he going to be healthy? You got a glimpse of, what the X factor, he can provide is if he, is able to stay healthy in the playoffs this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, it's been moving on from that game because again, it's been a weird stretch. You go to Toronto on the 21st, have a 106-104 win without Jason Tatum. He missed that game with some left wrist soreness. It is obviously the same wrist he injured in the playoffs last year and hampered his play in the finals. So I saw some people discuss that. I wanted to get your thoughts. Any concern at all that the wrist injury is coming up not early because obviously we're halfway through the season, but obviously early before the playoffs start? Any concern there moving forward, or is this one of those things where it's like you monitor it, kind of move on? If he has to miss some games here down the stretch, you're fine with that. Because like I said, I saw some people saying like, oh, the wrist is already acting up. I think he said it's kind of been a thing all season. They're just monitoring it, so I'm not too concerned about it, especially if they're gonna have these games where he takes off and other guys step up.
Yeah, that's been a thing so much for the Celtics this year is, when guys like Brown or Tatum are out, it doesn't crumble the team. So it's one of those things I think they should prioritize with load management once they clinch.
Yep.
But right now, just have him play through it as much as he can because I think that's what he's going to want to do and what the team's going to want. But like, it's the thing that down the stretch, I think they should be careful about once, they have that liberty of, being clinched in a playoff spot. But it's not something I'm super, paranoid about right now.
All right. I think that's a fair way to look at it. Like you said, the Celtics have had these times where, you guys step up. They do. Brown, Brogdon, and Grant Williams all play great in this game. Brown had 27 points carrying the load. Grant Williams had 25. I think that was a career high for him, or at least a season high. And then Malcolm Brogdon continues to really edge his case for the sixth man of the year, as we both predicted he would be. 23 points off the bench, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, steal and a block. He's been great in that role. And then Peyton Pritchard with no Tatum got some extra minutes. He played really well as well. 25 minutes played, 12 points. All of his shots made were 3-pointers, 4-7 there. So Pritchard's an interesting one. He played really well in that game. I'll get to the Miami game in a second that he did not play great in. I've seen some people, my dad included, argue that Peyton Pritchard's a guy that should be getting more minutes on this team. Are you in that camp, or are you kind of just pick your spots? Because that's where I am. I've seen games where he plays really well and others where he looks lost out there, or teams pick him apart on defense. So I feel like he's a guy that probably is, put him out in certain spots against certain teams, and he can play really well. You're in that camp too?
I think his role is fine. And I did look it up. Grant Williams is 25 than it was his career high.
Okay, so that's what I thought I heard them say on the broadcast. So close win against a good team without Tatum. Obviously, that's a huge not statement win because they've proven they can beat Toronto before. But just like you said, Tatum's out. You have to have other guys step up when they do that. Good to see in that sense.
Yeah, it gives you some reassurance, that guys can step up when needed to if somebody's out. So
absolutely. The Orlando game, I mean, they lose again to Orlando. Are we concerned with that? No, because you're not going to see the Magic in the playoffs. You'd like them to beat the bad teams, but it's just one of those teams, one of those seasons. We've seen it in the past. The Bruins, was it Ottawa? They were never able to beat. It was always one team they always kind of came up short
Ottawa
against.
At times, Carolina, years back was a problem.
Yeah, when they weren't good. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the whole point being teams have these type of performances, these type of games. The Magic, they're not. I mean, they're not good in the standings wise, but they're good
into the playoffs. The Celtics are screwed.
That's true. You don't want to see the Magic in the playoffs. That would not be good. But no, I mean,
Carroll owns the Celtics.
He does. He's very good. He's got a bright future. That was one of the big points from this game. Another good game from him against the Celtics.
That's got to be nice for Magic fans. If they haven't had a lot of wins.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they got another one too. Jonathan Isaac. He played his first game in over, I think 2.5 years, pretty much coming off torn ACL. He looked decent in that game
all the time, doesn't he?
What's up?
I feel like that guy gets hurt all the time, doesn't he?
Yeah, he injured tore his ACL 2 years ago and could never come back. So it's kind of been rehabbing since then.
Anytime I ever hear anything about that guy, it's like a new injury. But maybe I'm mistaking him with someone else.
No, I think you're right. I mean, that's the thing that stinks. You said good for the Magic to get a win, obviously on the score sheet, and then morally, because this is a guy that had a lot of upside coming out of college, played well in his rookie year, has never been able to stay healthy. Finally gets back out there, puts up 10 points, looks pretty good. But to me, I'm not gonna lose sleep over this loss. Brown and Tatum both play. They have 26. Didn't really get any help outside of that. Your next two closest scorers were Hauser and White with 13 and 11. I think the thing from this game, good to see Hauser kind of step up and give you something, because he had really been giving you nothing for the most part. It was kind of one of the more concerning things I had, but to see him break out of his funk here and play somewhat decent in this game, hit a couple of shots, was good to see. Personally, we'll do some trade deadline stuff as that gets closer, but I think maybe for the Celtics, one more, shooter off the bench, a veteran guy, maybe could be beneficial, and maybe bounce Hauser from the rotation or give him less minutes, because he's a little too streaky right now for my liking. Like I said, hopefully the Magic game kind of helps him out of the funk he's been in. But right now, when it comes to, trustworthy guys and guys, who can put up points, might not be the most reliable option on the team. The last one, the Miami game from last night, 98-95 loss. Was the ending awful? Yes. The Heat go on a 15-0 run. Tatum again has some bad turnovers. That's the big takeaway for me in this game is, he has to get the turnovers down. I think he knows that. Obviously, Joe Mazzulla knows that. The big thing for me, though, in this game, too, is the Celtics went into it without Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Al Horford, and Malcolm Brogdon, and only lost the game by 3 points.
Yeah.
I saw some people freak out, oh, this is a terrible ending for the game. Tatum didn't play great again down the stretch. The turnovers are killer. Yes, I agree with that. I saw some people get on Joe Mazzulla for not calling a timeout at the end of the game to kind of set up a play. I don't know if you feel the same way I do about that, but I'll take that opportunity. Tatum had the ball in his hands. The execution was not good. Obviously turning the ball over late twice at the end of that game. But, if Mazzulla calls a timeout there, he gives the Heat a chance to set up a defense, set up maybe a better defender on Tatum than he would have had. It gives Spoelstra a chance to maybe go to his bench and get somebody off it that he wouldn't be able to, with the game obviously being in the flow of things. So I'm not going to lose my mind over Mazzulla not calling a timeout and get on him for that. I'm going to more so get upset again that Tatum can't control the ball at the end of games. So that's the one big takeaway there. But again, like the Heat were only missing Jimmy Butler and they only won by 3 points against the Celtics B squad plus Tatum. Like, I don't know how you can get up that upset. They're still 35-14. They're still, I think, 4 games up on the Sixers, or it might be 3.5 now. They're still the class of the Eastern Conference. They really don't show any signs of slowing down or anything like that. So it's just one of those type of bumps in the roads type of thing that I'm not going to go too crazy over, because again, they've shown that they can get out of these funks. They've shown they can compete with really anybody except the Magic. So I'm not going to be too crazy over these type of things. I don't know if you feel different or anything from this game stood out if you saw it or anything like that.
Yeah, I think you described it quite well. My favorite thing to come from the Celtics yesterday was the Joe Mazzulla and Marcus Smart story, where he just walked past Smart in the locker room, did a somersault in front of him, and told Marcus and just said, "You can't do that."
Yeah.
And then he walked out. And then Adam Himmelsbach asked Marcus Smart if this was an inside joke. He said he had no idea where it came from,
no clue
or what it was about. And said, we need to stop giving him sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if, he's a big sugar cereal before games guy or something, or, he's a candy guy or what.
I don't know.
Apparently he was all jacked up on Mountain Dew. I don't know.
That's the thing too. There's still.
What I found out?
What's up?
Want to know something crazy?
Sure.
The kid in that movie that said, I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew and talking about scissor kicking Chip in the back of the head. He's dead.
Did not know that.
Dead. Random fact.
Oh, that's a. I thought you were gonna give me a good fact, a funny thing. Yeah, that's a downer fact.
I was like, oh my God. I forget where I heard that. I heard it the other day. That kid's dead. The little jacked up Mountain Dew kid is gone.
That's unfortunate.
Rest in peace.
The only thing I was going to say about that is this. It again shows that the Celtics, they might be losing a game here or there, but they're still in good spirits. There's nothing again to worry about with this team, I don't think. Again, I can't harp on it enough. The big thing is for Tatum to get those turnovers down, or I think he could really have a case to maybe kiss that MVP candidacy goodbye, because you obviously need to buckle down at the end of games. But again, if they go off on a stretch here and lose 6 or 7 games in a row when the sky is falling and Joe Mazzulla's whipping chairs instead of doing somersaults in front of people, then I think you have a problem here. But they're still dominant. They're still, they still have the MVP on their roster. I think you and I are both in agreement there. There's still plenty of optimism and hope with this team. So minus a couple of, again, minor problems here, there's nothing to worry about with the Celtics team. They're still going to roll through the East and be fine.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat, dog.
Nothing crazy.
Things are good.
Everyone chill the fuck out. Nobody needs to lose their minds over the Celtics if people are doing that.
Yeah, that would be weird.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to wrap it up tonight, though, for episode 127. Thank you so much for listening. You can find us wherever you find your podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter. Excuse me, if you don't already, at Mike_Cratty, at Ryan_Salvaggio, and the show at Salvaggio and Cratty Pod. You can throw us into your TikTok search bar if you're a TikTok person and find us there for some additional content. We'll be back again next Wednesday for another episode 128. Hopefully more Bruins and Celtics positive stuff to talk about. Maybe a Bengals 49ers Super Bowl to look forward to.
That would be ideal.
Maybe the Red Sox will even do something good. I don't know, man.
I doubt it.
I doubt it too. But until then, we'll talk to you next week. Stay safe, stay healthy, be nice to people, enjoy the football this week, and we'll talk to you then. Peace out.